Welcome back to the channel, my friends. Warhammer Man Studios. I'm Warhammer Man, and today we're taking a look at this week's Sunday preview. This video is sponsored by CMO Games. More on that later. Sunday preview: Knights, Vampires, and classic Warhammer 40,000 terrain. It's a big week for Warhammer 40,000 with a ton of new stuff coming to next week's pre-orders. So let's sink our teeth into it without preamble. Alright, so there is a little video right here. We're going to skip over that and take a look at the full article. Two noble knights canter into plastic for the first time, for use in your games of Horus Heresy and Warhammer 40,000. So I do love how they specifically put for use in your games of Horus Heresy and Warhammer 40,000. So they are 100% looking to sell these Horus Heresy miniatures to Warhammer 40,000 players. And if you're not sure the significance of that, we saw in the past that they sold all of the Horus Heresy vehicles to Warhammer 40,000 players, and then in the new edition, almost immediately after all these new vehicles came out, they put them to Legends, so they're no longer usable. But now, of course, we have seen 3 new Knights come out, and all of those did, in fact, receive Warhammer 40,000 rules. So Games Workshop 100% using the big brain tactics to sell their 30k models to 40k players. Had they not pulled the bait and switch, I actually wouldn't have a problem with this, but just be very, very careful whenever you're buying this. I don't foresee in the future that they're going to restrict the use of these Knights in Warhammer 40k. But just be aware, if they've done it once, it's not crazy to think that they would do it again. The Acheron variant of the lofty knight Cerastus loves nothing more than to get right into the very grill of the foe. Armed with the Flamestorm Cannon and Reaper Chainfist, it can clear infantry in great gouts of superheated Promethium, or wide sweeps of its chain blade. It's an exterminator, a grim steed designed for the express purpose of slaughter. So very cool, and this is the second of the Knight Cerastus. We saw the Lancer already, and now we have the Acheron. And then the third is the Cerastus Knight Castigator. The Castigator prefers to fight at mid-range, laying down a hail of high-yield explosive shells from his Castigator bolt cannon. It can still tussle in melee, however, with its Tempest Warblade, a mighty sword that deploys Volkite technology to really lay on the hurt. So definitely some cool models right here. I do wish Games Workshop would have just cut to the chase and made a triple kit where you got all of the weapon options with it, similar to what they've done with the Imperial Knights. This one also came out at that higher price point at $200. At least the Lancer did, so I'm expecting that for these two as well. So very cool. Definitely, if you are a Horus Heresy player, I'm sure excited for these. And with their use in Warhammer 40,000, again, very cool. I do think the Lancer is the best of the Knights, but these ones definitely serve a nice purpose. All right, and then next we've got something I have been calling for a while now, and I am very, very excited for this, although I do have some issues with it as well. With the new edition of Warhammer 40,000 in full ferocious swing, it's time to get your battlefields looking spiffy. With that in mind, a whole bunch of classic terrain kits are being re-released on a made-to-order basis, as well as the ever-popular hero bases and basing details. They'll all be available from next Saturday, the 23rd of September, until 8 a.m. on Monday, the 2nd of October. So we'll have 1 week in this made-to-order window, and we do know with these items that there is a 180-day delivery window. So up to 6 months from when you purchase it to when you receive it. So these are not just going to be like shipping out next week or anything like that, but very cool and glad to see some awesome pieces of terrain come back. Now the Aegis defense line is definitely cool. I'm a fan of it. I like the little quad cannon and everything that comes with it, but the new version of the Aegis defense line is exponentially better. It's cool. It blocks line of sight and everything, but again, the reworked one that they did for Astra Militarum is absolutely amazing. And even if you're not playing like an Astra Militarum army, I think you could easily just use it as regular old terrain without the special rules. So we're not sure what price these are going to be coming back at. I'm sure it's going to be substantially higher than when they were previously offered, as we've seen Games Workshop prices go up quite a bit since then, but definitely cool to see this as an option. Next we have the Bastion. So this is a really cool piece of terrain. One thing I really like about the Bastion and really excites me about them bringing it back is one of the issues right now, specifically like with towering, is none of the Games Workshop terrain that they sell has like big chunks of line of sight blocking. So this is both tall and wide, and it's basically just a big brick on the table that completely blocks anything behind it. So definitely a big fan of the full-on like line of sight blocking, just solid pieces of terrain, and really happy to see these coming back. Another cool thing about this, they can be built modular. So like you can leave out the center section, you could leave off the bottom section, etc. There's lots of different ways you can build them. You can assemble and glue them specifically so they stay modular. You have the ability to move the gun and put it on the ground or anything. There's a lot of like super cool stuff here. And then also with like the doorways and everything, there's a little piece on the bottom here that can be cut out so that it actually fits in perfect with the trenches. So very, very nice piece of terrain. Very happy to see this coming back. If you're looking for something big, Games Workshop, that blocks line of sight, this is it right here. All right, and then next we have the actual Wall of Martyrs trenches. So these are pretty cool. These are like little end caps you can put on the trenches if you want. You get 2 of each with your 2 pieces, and there's like a left piece and a right piece basically. These are really, really cool. Definitely a big fan of the trenches. And while the lack of these being available has spurred like quite a bit of people basically making like online prints and stuff like that, there's definitely some cool options, but the detail and modularity of these is amazing. And then also, if you're not using these as the end caps, they make really good like sort of just barricades that you can place on the battlefield. Once again, huge fan of this stuff. It has awesome aesthetics, super grimdark, very, very cool. There's like tons of like dead Astra Militarum bodies right here, like ammunition crates, skulls, all kinds of stuff. This truly is the Wall of Martyrs. So very, very cool. Happy to see that coming back as well. All right, and then next, these things serve like 2 specific purposes. So you get all 3 of these in the kit and then 2 of the end caps. These ones are a T. So basically like one of the trenches can come in from the back and then it splits it like 2 ways. So you have like essentially that T section. Here's a second one, T section, exactly the same except for the front plate. And then this one is more of like a, it's kind of a V. So like one comes in diagonally this way and then one exits diagonally that way. And then it's cool because you can put like a heavy weapon or something in here, or like just your regular troops are kind of like shooting through the window, you know, with some kind of like gun emplacement or something like that. These are super neat. And again, they just go along with the modularity of the actual Wall of Martyrs and just let you get those angles in. So this one I think ends up being about a 45-degree angle. And then of course these are 90-degree angles, but you know, that T like we discussed. And then next we have the little bunker right here. So this thing is really cool as well. It's just a basic little bunker. Again, it has like the Wall of Martyrs, like all the bodies and everything. There's like doors on the sides and then on the back as well. So again, these pieces, there's like a little nub on there. There's a little cutout on the bottom of these. If you cut out that little nub, they slot right into place and fit together. Very, very cool. Now, before we move on from here, I do want to bring up one thing about this Wall of Martyrs, specifically about this bunker. A lot of this stuff was created a long, long time ago, and the scale on Warhammer was much different then. So the actual like regular Marines versus like our Primaris Marines now are substantially smaller. And then this terrain is actually like scaled slightly smaller than the old Space Marines. So new stuff on this looks a little bit too large, I'm not going to lie. Or it looks like all of this was built for basically like regular size humans. And then you throw like some Space Marines or something like that on there and they just look massive. Now I'm not saying that's going to like ruin your immersion or it's not going to be fun with like the new larger size models, but it is worth note that everything here is like a little bit smaller of a scale. So very cool. Happy to see all that stuff coming back. And then of course we have the Skyshield Landing Pad. So this thing again, pretty massive. The little flaps on the sides actually like fold up to like a 90-degree angle. So it's like a little wall going around the landing pad. It is elevated a few inches off the ground. I want to say they're like 5 inches. The little like stilt feet are. Really nice piece of terrain right here. Again, very happy to see this coming back. This thing is pretty big. It doesn't serve the same kind of like line of sight blocking as like the Bastion does, but it just gives you like a large kind of like centerpiece or something like that. Also the idea of a like takeoff and landing pad, definitely cool if you're trying to do like some kind of like assault mission or like escape mission or something like that. So very cool, awesome terrain. Glad to see this stuff all coming back. But again, just note that it is a little bit smaller of a scale than all of the new Games Workshop stuff. There are 6 returning terrain kits: the classic Aegis defense line, the Imperial Bastion, the Skyshield Landing Pad, the Imperial Bunker, the Imperial Defense Emplacement, and the Imperial Defense Line. They are joined by the Warhammer 40,000 Hero Bases and Sector Imperialis Large Base Detail Kit. These are the hero bases, and it comes with like some pretty neat stuff. If you're not into like making your own bases and you want kind of like a display base for your heroes, these are definitely some cool options. And then this is basically just like a few sprues of bits. And the idea is this matches like the Sector Imperialis like table or like tiles that they used to make. You also see like a lot of the same patterns used throughout like various Games Workshop stuff. So this basically lets you put a little bit of the matching scatter terrain on your bases if you're normally playing on like an Imperialis style table. So pretty cool to see this stuff coming back. Definitely excited to see. A lot of it had gone out of stock, like kind of unnoticed over the last few years, and definitely unannounced. So the opportunity for newer players or people that missed out in the past to get some of this cool like terrain and basing stuff is definitely awesome. All right, and then next for Blood Bowl. After a long rest, the vampires are returning to Blood Bowl. They said they'd be back with a selection of fantastic releases. The Drakfang Thirsters. So we saw these guys shown off not too long ago. Cool models here. Definitely a big fan. I like the little accessories that come with them and everything. I do like the overall look of them as well. You have like your full on like vampires, and then you have their sort of like vampire apprentices or food banks. I'm not sure if you're just milking them for the blood, or if one day they get to become a vampire as well. But overall, cool aesthetic here. I definitely like it. They have like their little fancy like shirts on and everything. They have a little bit of like a kind of cartoony feel to them. Definitely a little different than Games Workshop's normal kind of like grimdark style, but very cool nonetheless. Now a quick message from today's sponsor. CMO Games has been selling Games Workshop products online for over 20 years. They carry the full line of Games Workshop products, including Warhammer 40,000, Age of Sigmar, Necromunda, Blood Bowl, paint tools, and more. Almost all Games Workshop products are priced at 15% off MSRP. CMO Games takes pre-orders for most Games Workshop products released at their earliest date possible. 12:01 a.m. on Saturday, they go live. Most of these pre-order products are also priced at 15% off MSRP. CMO Games offer free shipping in the US 48 with an order of $50 or more. Their customer service is top-notch and they ship most orders within 24 hours. Visit CMOGames.com using the affiliate link in the description and let them know that you heard about CMO Games from Warhammer Man. Now back to the video. The vampires are back to suck the blood out of Blood Bowl. With a new plastic team, you get 14 players in total. 2 vampire blitzers, 2 vampire runners, 2 vampire throwers, and 8 thralls for a mid-match snack. You also get all the usual balls, coins, and tokens, and a transfer sheet. So I guess they are thralls, so they are for the snack. So more of the food bank and less of a aspiring vampire. Then next we have the Vargheist. So cool model right here. Looks like he's basically like mid-shift. I'm not sure if it's like turning back into like more of a human form or turning into a bat form from a human. But definitely like a transformation process going on here. Pretty cool. Nice looking aesthetic here. I am assuming this is coming from forgeworld though, in resin. The vampire team gets a brute, arguably one of the most bloodthirsty in the whole game. The Vargheist is a rampaging force to be reckoned with, strong, fast, frenzied, and desperate to drink blood. It's arriving in forgeworld resin. It's like they ruin everything by putting it in forgeworld resin. I'm sure somebody out there is like, oh no, I like the forgeworld resin and the prices, but not normal people, not me. All right, and then we have Count Luthor von Drakenborg. One of the greatest of all time, the Count is back on the Astra Granite after a few years off, and he's better than ever. Immune to the desperate need to drink blood, and with a special skill that grants you an extra reroll, Luthor is here to dazzle in forgeworld resin, and can play for all Sylvanian Spotlight teams. So again, cool model, unfortunately resin. And then we have Captain Karina von Riesz. A newer face on the pitch, the captain has taken the Blood Bowl world by storm with her unearthly strength and dexterity. She's got a great hat. She's available in forgeworld resin and will line up for the Sylvanian Spotlight team. Mediocre at best. It's got like a little wish hat thing going on there. And then Ivan the Animal Deathshroud. Another blast from the past. Ivan the Animal has been reanimated once more to play for the Sylvanian Spotlight teams. Across the old world, he's hard as nails and ready to smash. Ivan is cast in forgeworld resin. So cool model right here. I definitely like the look of this. And then we have Spiked Journal 16. You've got the team and you've assembled the star players, so you're probably going to need rules for them. Spiked Journal 16 contains all that and more. It's a one-stop shop for all things vampire and Blood Bowl, including rules, tactics, lore, and more. So if you're after the vampires, you're going to need that Spiked Journal issue 16. And then next we have the Vampire Team Pitch, cards, and dice. Complete the vampiric look for these accessories. A double-sided pitch with dugout set, in which you can play in Vampire's Castle with some very flammable carpet, some chic dice, and a card set which includes 2 types of special play reference cards, star player cards, and blank positional cards to record your team on. And these dice actually are pretty cool. You can't really see them that well here, but I do like the look of them. All right, and then we have Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring, Battle in Balin's Tomb. The popular board game returns, pitting 2 players against each other in a desperate battle to keep hold of the one ring. On the one side, the Fellowship of the Ring, 9 plastic models representing the heroes of the movies. On the other are the Goblins of Moria, for a total of 12 goblins armed in different ways. And they have a Cave Troll. This box contains all the dice and tokens you need to play fast-paced games in up to 45 minutes. So cool little reprint of the Lord of the Rings. All right, and then from Black Library, we have Ciaphas Cain for the Emperor. The luckiest commissar in the Imperium returns in a new adventure, this time memorialized in a special edition. The luxurious volume is limited to just 2,000 copies signed by the author Sandy Mitchell. With all the fancy bindings and ribbons you've come to expect from such releases. It contains the novel for the Emperor and a short story entitled Rotten to the Core. So cool little book right there. I do like the overall look of this thing. I like that it is looking weathered and everything, and also looks very propaganda-esque. So super cool design right there. So that is going to do it for this week. Definitely some cool stuff coming. Happy to see the terrain returning. In particular, definitely very excited to see the Bastion, as that provides something that the current existing terrain range does not. But some of my favorite pieces coming back in the Imperial Trench emplacements and the bunker as well. So very, very cool. Let me know what you're excited about, what you're going to be picking up. Always like to hear back from you guys in the comments. Special thanks to CMO Games for sponsoring the video. That's it for today. Warhammer Man Studios. I'm Warhammer Man, and is it really a good idea for Games Workshop to be bringing back a bunch of out-of-print stuff when they can't even keep their catalog in stock? And I'm out of here.